And now you hear Cenk's big thing is like, we got to unite the populist right and the populist left, and here's this area and that area where we can agree. But what I would say to Cenk in reaction to that is, it's not like they're completely and utterly full of shit.
Mike from the Humanist Report had a conversation with Kyle Kulinski very recently about the Young Turks and both Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian's apparent right-wing pivot. This is the term from his own post. And they've been talking, Cenk in particular has been talking about a kind of a right-wing populism. I did a video recently where I'm commenting on her conversation with Glenn Beck. And there's sort of a buzz. Everybody's trying to figure out. I think there's some people in their audience that feel kind of betrayed. But we see in this wording, right-wing pivot. And I think this is an interesting conversation. Let's check it out together.
I'm dying to know your thoughts on TYT and Kasparian. So I'm not going to put you in a place where you have to attack them. But from my perspective, I feel like it's sad to see this because we've all been in this space for a while, and we've seen this 100 times. Dave Rubin, Jimmy Dore, what's his name? Russell Brand, where little by little you start to, you pick one or two issues and then you start buddying up with the right. And I see this with TYT and Ana Kasparian, and I'm curious what your thoughts on that are.
Before I answer that, I'm curious your thoughts on, do you think it's going to go fully in that direction? Like, do you think it's genuinely going to end up like a Jimmy Dore or a Dave Rubin?
Yes, I do. If you asked me this a year ago, I would say probably not. I was in that position where you were in, probably with like Joe Rogan, where it's like, no, I think that you should try to reach these people. I think that maybe there's just a genuine agreement. But to me, with time, it's become apparent that like both Cenk and Ana, they just don't want to listen to good faith criticism. And, we all kind of like talked about this in different ways, like on Leftist Mafia, for example. And what really struck me is how, they just disregarded the arguments that we made. It was not in bad faith, even though they don't want to, acknowledge that. It wasn't in bad faith, but they said it was in bad faith. And for me, I think that moment that really like clicked with me, like, no, it's over, was when they went after Emma Vigeland, because Emma Vigeland, they know her more than they know us. I was part of TYT Network. You were part of TYT Network, but we didn't have that close relationship. I never was at TYT Studio. I think you were only there a couple of times. So like
that, for those of you who aren't aware, Emma Vigeland used to work with Ana Kasparian, and there has been some scathing back and forth between them. That doesn't really have anything to do with national politics, but talking about these sort of individual personalities making a shift and rifts forming, it's really interesting. And there are some other videos on that.
There's that degree of separation between us. But just to see them disregard the criticisms of the left. I mean, we all criticize each other. You and I have had debates like in DMs on Twitter about fucking specific healthcare bills and shit like that. But we never I never thought, oh, Kyle's a fucking grifter. And I don't think you thought the same about me. It was just disagreements that we were hashing out. And even I said something about Wolfpack on my show, and Cenk had reached out to me privately and said, hey, the people at Wolfpack think that you got this wrong. And so I'm like, oh shit, I don't remember what it was in particular, but I brought on one of the directors of Wolfpack on my show to correct the record and talk about Wolfpack. And it's like, it's one of those things where we're all going to eat shit. We're human beings. We don't have massive, production crews. We kind of just get on camera and we say what we think. And so there are going to be times where we trip on our own dicks. We have to eat shit sometimes. And our peers are the best people to hold us accountable. Like if some random YouTube comment says, hey, Mike, fuck you. You said this. You're a terrible, terrible person. I'm going to disregard that. But if Kyle reaches out to me and says, hey, Mike, I think that you really messed up here, that's when I'm going to think, oh, okay, well, if Kyle's saying this, he's been doing this for a long time. I respect him. He respects me. So that, to me, is why I think TYT might actually just be straight up gone. Because they've tuned out all of the people that were closest to them, that respected them, that they respected. And now it's just right-wingers, Glenn Beck, PBD. And it's not a bad thing to go on these shows at all, going on Temple and whatnot. But it's what you do when you're on these shows, right? Like you were on PBD, and you criticize them, you challenge them.
Yeah, the whole thing was a debate. The whole thing was a debate.
The entire fucking thing was a debate. Mm-hmm. And this was the same criticism that we had with Jimmy Dore when he started going on Tucker Carlson. Like, I don't care that you go on Tucker Carlson. I'm not trying to police where you go. You're a grown man. But if I were on Tucker Carlson, I'm going to speak truth to power. I'm going to criticize him for the white supremacy that he's espousing. And I don't see that. I see them going on these shows, attacking the left. And to me, it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe 5 years ago, I would still be more charitable. A year ago, I'd be more charitable. But I feel like we've seen this show so many times. It's a rerun. And I actually think they're less subtle. Like, I think Ana is less subtle than Dave Rubin's grift.
Yeah, I want to call that out again. I think it's not going on the show that's the issue. It's how you comport yourself and what you say on the show, right? I mean, Pete Buttigieg has always been somebody that's really impressed me for not being afraid to go on traditionally right-wing outlets like Fox News. He believes in what he's saying. He can articulate it, and he's not afraid to say, now, wait a minute, what if you think about it this way, or that's not true, right? So I think it's important in a polarized thing to go on, quote, the other team's programs and have the conversation in earnest.
This point in time.
It's almost like they had kind of the opposite reaction as me. So like in 2016, it looked to me like they were fully in resistance mode, where it was like, man, we're going to fight on everything. We're going to fight tooth and nail on everything. Fuck Trump in every imaginable way. Even to the point where, there were some areas where I disagree with them on like Russiagate type stuff. I was like,
same.
I don't agree with these particular criticisms that they're making, but it seemed like they were in full on resistance mode, and they maintained that all the way up seemingly until recently. And then the mindset. So in the same way as like I was trying to like find bridges or areas of agreement from 2016 on, and then eventually I realized, shit, this didn't work. And I flipped, and now I'm being super aggressive, and I'm the one that's resisting. And for them, it was resist, resist, resist. And then just recently, it's almost like they just got tired of doing the we're in the resistance, we're going to fight everything. And now you hear Cenk's big thing is like, we got to unite the populist right and the populist left, and here's this area and that area where we can agree. But what I would say to Cenk in reaction to that is, it's not like they're completely and utterly full of shit. Every single one of them. That's even and God bless Bernie. I love him. I don't think Bernie's a sellout by any stretch of the imagination, but his strategy on this has been like, I agree with Trump that we should cap credit card interest rates at 10%. And I agree with Elon Musk and Doge that we need to cut the Pentagon. And he's putting that out there. But here's the thing, Bernie. They're not going to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. They're not going to cut the Pentagon. And then when they don't do those things, all of those MAGA accounts are going to pretend like they never supported capping credit card interest rates at 10%.
Right. I got to agree with him 100% here. This idea is just make a deal with the devil. It's like, well, we got shellacked. So what do? I guess we try and find some common ground, but that's what the left has always done. The left has always tried to find some common ground. They're not interested. They're not going to do what they say, right? They're saying whatever they think they need to say to get elected. It worked. And now it's rip and run again, baby. We've already done this.
They're going to say they never supported cutting the Pentagon, and they're going to go wherever Trump wants them to go, because MAGA is effectively a cult. And so what I would say to Bernie is, I know where your heart is. I know you're trying to do what you think is the right thing and get them in a gotcha and hypocrisy burn them and say, see, they were lying, etc. But they're immune to the hypocrisy burns. And so the real strategy is to upfront say, look, these people are full of shit. They're full of shit. They don't mean a goddamn word of what they say. And I will put in the same category, I'd put, the PBDs of the world and the Tim Pools of the world and the Joe Rogans of the world. Like, do you think Rogan, like when Trump starts doing objectively horrible shit, do you think Rogan is going to be on his show like, man, I really disagree with this? Like he did back in the day. Remember when the child separation policy was happening and Rogan had on Duncan Trussell and he went on like a pro-immigrant rant where he was saying, yeah. And do you think that's going to happen this time around? No. He endorsed the guy who said he wants to do a mass deportation. And if Trump does do a mass deportation, Rogan's either going to say nothing about it or just defend it. Right. And so I think that's the point is like, as we've been saying, there are way more allies who are liberals or who are just independents than there are the populist right. I'm of the belief at this point, the populist right is fake. It's not real. They will flip on a dime to go where Trump wants them to go. And by the way, I know I'm right about this because, again, we have the first 4 years. I mean, already Trump has axed Lena Khan. Lena Khan was like the example of, oh, if they mean this and they're actually going to be populist, they will keep Lena Khan at the FTC. And they said, oh, J.D. Vance had said some kind words about Lena Khan. Maybe Trump will keep Lena Khan. And then we learned just last week, He's not keeping her.
Because Lena Khan is not a loyalist. That's the sole criteria, folks.
He's replacing Lena Khan with somebody who says, I want to stop the FTC's war on big business. So how many times do they have to fail this test before we call it for what it is? J.D. Vance pretends like he's a populist. He's not even in favor of raising the minimum wage. He dodged a question on that during the campaign. He's not even in favor of the PRO Act. He said he supports the $6,000 child tax credit, and he didn't show up for the vote on the $6,000 child tax credit, right? So it's just, I'm hoping, like I think a lot of people are, for just when something really bad happens, I'm hoping that there's some sort of an about face, right? And that TYT goes, hey, they didn't do the thing that I thought they might do, so now I'm on the warpath against them too. So I hope that that's the case. But we'll just have to see if that's the case. And I don't know. I don't know if I want to hold my breath on that, because I am notoriously a horrible judge of character on these things, as we already just went through. Like we just discussed the Rogan thing. I gave him credit for way too long. For Jimmy Dore, I gave him credit for way too long. For all these people. But what I would say is this: I really hope that that Cenk or Ana or both, they talk to Sam Cedar, or they talk to
I would love that.
John Idarola and Francesca Fiorentini, because it really does. They seem to think, as you sort of pointed out, that anybody who disagrees with them on certain issues, it truly is just a grifter and they're a liar. And, whether it's crime issues or trans issues, they seem to think like everybody who's on the left genuinely loves crime, right? This is something I've heard from them. So it's like, I want them to talk to somebody who can rep that counter argument, who they respect enough to give them the space to make the argument, right? And I don't know if they'll do that. I'd be willing to have the conversation with them.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I would have no problem having that conversation with them.
But because the bridge is burnt for a lot of folks, like it's burnt between myself and them. But I mean, like, at least they could speak to Francesca or John or you, because like if you think that we're bad faith, that's fine. Because I've taken the gloves off. Like I'm kind of past the whole maybe we can save them. I can fix them. I don't believe that. But for the people who are still on good terms with them, I think that the fact that he's not having that conversation, and Francesca actually just said, I was watching The Vanguard, and they're playing a clip of Francesca where she tried to have a conversation between them and John, and Cenk denied it. So the fact that they're not doing that is so frustrating to me.
This idea. Oh, this is what Cenk's been going around saying now. Like, when we disagree, let's disagree. And then let's go have a beer after, and then where we agree, let's unite. This is like his big thing that he's going around saying now. And it's like, look, I understand that, but it gets squirrely when you say that like PBD's an honest actor or Tim Pool's an honest actor. You could have a conversation with them, but you can't have a conversation with Sam Cedar, right?
Or Glenn Beck, for that matter.
Right. So, that's what is.
I mean, that's
so
just frustrating. And Cenk had Hassan. Cenk and Hassan did that thing on Thanksgiving, and I don't know. It just seemed like it was sort of like hitting a brick wall a little bit, right? Like it seems like there's an impasse, and I think the point is like if all of your passion comes out and you get really like fiery and riled up, just when it's those little areas of disagreement with the left, I think that's why a lot of people are like, I don't know if I like this, because that sort of like fiery anger and passion where like you're really about it. In a moment like this, all of that anger really should be targeted at the right, Trump just won the White House. They got the Senate, they got the House. This whole Doge thing is just literal billionaire robber barons who are going to loot the treasury and, cut your grandma's Social Security and Medicare. And it's like, we really do need to be harping away on this and going after these people, because it's about to get really ugly really, really quickly. And we really need both basically anybody who's anywhere left of center to unite and all be in unison and all hammer away. This was the brilliance of Fox News and the right-wing media sphere is like, so they'll have their stories for the day or the week and their talking points, and like every outlet under the sun will repeat it till the cows come home, and then they drive the narrative. They drive the entire political narrative in the country. And that's what the left is missing. That's what liberals and leftists are missing, is just in unison a media apparatus that's all harping away on the same things and steering the narrative.
Yeah, I like Kyle Kulinski a lot. I think I align pretty closely with the way in which he's thinking about this stuff. And, I like Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian too. I am sort of scratching my head about this. It feels like a rightward pivot. I know Cenk says it's not that. He says it's about populism and this idea of a right-wing populism and uniting the populace. Boy, that sounds great. What about the incoming administration that is going to basically try and turn it into an authoritarian country, right? What do we do about that? And how does your populist vision fit into that? Because they're not going to play ball with you. They don't have any intent, despite whatever they may have said on this or that day during the campaign. But I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments.